One of the most famous men in music could walk free from prison sooner than anyone expected, and his release date just changed for what feels like the 100th time. Sean Combs, the rapper and mogul known as Diddy, is serving time in federal prison. But the date he is set to be released keeps shifting earlier and earlier, and a fresh update has people doing a double take. The reasons behind the changes are just as interesting as the dates themselves. Stay until the end to understand why his release keeps moving and what still stands between him and freedom. First, a quick recap of how he ended up here. After a long and closely watched legal saga, Combs was convicted in 2025 on 2 counts tied to transportation for prostitution. Importantly, he was acquitted of the most serious charges he faced, which included sex trafficking and racketeering, charges that could have put him away for life. In the end, he was sentenced to 50 months, which is just over 4 years. He is now serving that sentence at a low-security federal prison in New Jersey. Prosecutors had pushed for a far longer term, asking for more than a decade behind bars, so the 4-year sentence was already seen by many as far shorter than it could have been. From the start, the exact release date was something that could shift over time. So what is the new update? According to federal prison records, Combs is now scheduled to be released on February 23, 2028. That is earlier than the date listed just a short time ago, and it marks the latest in a string of changes to when he will actually walk out. To see how dramatic this is, look at how the date has bounced around. When he was first sentenced, his release was set for around May of 2028. Then it was pushed back slightly. After that, it moved up to late April, then to mid-April, and now it has jumped forward again to late February. The target keeps sliding, mostly in his favor. Why does a release date move at all? In the federal system, these dates are not fixed in stone. They can shift based on good behavior, credits earned by completing approved programs, and time already served before sentencing. A prisoner who follows the rules and takes part in the right programs can chip away at the calendar bit by bit. One big factor in Combs' case appears to be a drug treatment program. Earlier, his team shared that he had been accepted into a prison program focused on rehabilitation. Completing a program like that can take meaningful time off a sentence, which may help explain part of why his release keeps creeping earlier. Behind the scenes, the Bureau of Prisons uses a structured credit system that updates a sentence calculation automatically as eligibility requirements are met. These updates are not dramatic announcements most of the time, but quiet administrative adjustments that can still shift a projected release date by weeks or even months over the course of a sentence. That is why people sometimes see what looks like sudden movement, when in reality, it is the accumulation of smaller earned credits over time. The changes have not all gone his way, though. At one point, his release date was actually pushed back rather than forward. Reports tied that delay to claims he had broken prison rules, including stories about an improper phone call and homemade alcohol. So the road has had bumps, even as the overall trend has moved toward an earlier release. Another layer to this is how quickly public attention amplifies even minor administrative updates. In high-profile cases like this, a routine recalculation in a federal database can turn into a trending topic within hours. What would normally be a quiet adjustment in the background of the prison system becomes headline news because of who the inmate is and what his name represents in popular culture. It is worth remembering that his legal fight is far from over. Combs and his lawyers are appealing his conviction, asking a higher court to review the case. They have argued for overturning the conviction or reducing the sentence further. That appeal is still working its way through the courts, and its outcome could change things again. If an appellate court were to modify the sentence, the release timeline could shift in either direction depending on the ruling. On top of the criminal case, he faces a mountain of civil lawsuits. Reports describe dozens of separate complaints filed against him across the country, with new ones still appearing. These civil cases are separate from his prison sentence, but they show that his legal troubles will not simply end the day he is released. Supervised release is another factor that often gets overlooked in cases like this. Even after prison, individuals are typically required to follow strict conditions set by the court. That can include regular check-ins with a probation officer, limits on travel, restrictions on financial activity, and requirements tied to employment or counseling. In practice, it means the transition back to normal life is tightly controlled and monitored for years after release. So why does every small change to his date make headlines? Combs spent decades as one of the most powerful figures in music and business, a man who shaped careers and built an empire. A fall this public draws constant attention, and every shift in his status, even a few weeks on a release calendar, becomes a major story. There is also the bigger question hanging over all of it. When he does walk free, what happens next? A return for someone once so powerful would be one of the most watched comebacks, or downfalls, in entertainment. The release date is really the starting line for a story that is still being written. And as the months continue to pass, even routine updates inside the prison system are being watched more closely than ever before. Every recalculation of credits or eligibility quietly reshapes the projected timeline in the background. For most inmates, these changes would never be noticed outside the system itself. But in a case this high profile, even internal adjustments become global talking points. The combination of fame, legal history, and public curiosity keeps the spotlight firmly fixed on every detail. Meanwhile, his legal team continues to prepare filings that could further influence the outcome of his appeal. Prosecutors, on the other hand, are expected to defend the conviction and sentencing decisions at every level of review. This back and forth ensures that the case remains active long after the sentencing phase ended. And with multiple legal fronts still open, the final shape of his future remains uncertain. So until the last day actually arrives, every new update will continue to feel like another twist in a story that is still unfolding. Even small administrative changes inside the system continue to ripple outward into public discussion and media coverage. Each adjustment becomes another data point that people interpret as progress, delay, or uncertainty. The reality is that most of these shifts are procedural, not dramatic legal breakthroughs. But in a case tied to such a public figure, procedure itself becomes headline material. As long as appeals and reviews remain active, the timeline will continue to carry some flexibility. That means nothing about the release date is fully final until the final paperwork is signed and executed. And until that moment arrives, speculation will continue to move faster than the system itself. So the countdown to Sean Combs walking free keeps speeding up, one quiet records update at a time, and the world is watching the clock right along with him. For every twist in the biggest celebrity stories, subscribe to Hollywood Pulse Official. Like and share to keep the updates coming.